Hello everybody, and welcome to Today All About Stress Management. Yesterday you heard from Dr. Susie all about stress, and we explored the two sides of stress, and we're going to move on from here and look at how you can very practically incorporate some stress management strategies into your everyday. Stress is anything that can cause a physical, a physiological or a mental strain, and you can see all around our environment there are potential stresses, from a poor night's sleep to a diet filled with ultra processed food to excessive exercise. These are all things in our environment that can cause us to experience stress. Having a look at the stress curve, we can see from this those two sides of stress. At the beginning of the curve, you can see we move positively out of our comfort zone. We're challenged, we're engaged, we're moving into a learning and growth zone. This is often that period of time when we experience flow, when we don't even know the time is passing. However, if this continues for a long period of time, this can very quickly turn from eustress, positive stress, into negative stress. And we will just become increasingly disconnected. And when this is exacerbated for really long times that we're exposed to chronic stress, we eventually go into a full parasympathetic mode of fight, flight, or fright. And so the idea is that we want to remain in that positive stage of the stress curve. We know that stress has got some really horrendous implications on our health and well-being. This is just one of the studies. I also want to highlight to you from Paul Taylor's Future of Medicine conference, this beautiful idea that he explores on stress and the stress curves. In that we are in a homeostatic level, we then go through a stressor. We should recover from positive stress with rest, which then gets us back to that homeostatic state. And then you can see that negative curve, if we're not taking that period to recover, we actually are just constantly stressed and never have that time to rest, that we actually end up in a state that looks more like burnout. We never get back to our homeostasis. And you can also see that Paul Taylor postulates that if we can become really stress resilient, we can actually move beyond that homeostatic state where we're actually really primed to handle stress in a really positive and resilient way. When we're in a positive state of stress, when we're under eustress, this is where the magic of flow happens, where we're engaged, where we're patient, where we're flexible, we have a lot of tolerance. These are the states where we're at our most innovative and creative. But you can also see that once we move into that distress state, we are disconnected, that parasympathetic nervous system, the vagus system responds. We activate a parasympathetic response. Anxious, we're depressed. There's different behaviors and different ways of thinking elicited from those two different states. Stress and resilience is all about encouraging those positive and cultivating those positive stresses, that eustress, that where we are learning and growing all the time, engaged, creative and in flow, and then really understanding that what is required, how we've physiologically been designed, is to cycle out of that period of positive stress to a period of rest. We need time to restore ourselves, to re-energize, to rest, and to be able to reflect. And throughout our ultradian cycles in the day, we should see this wave of moving in and out of that positive stress experience. So if you can manage your energy rather than your time, and if you can focus on, after a positive stressor, allowing some time for rest. Very few of us are actually aware of when this happens. The idea is we start paying more attention to them, we become more aware. Looking at the work of Tony Schwartz, the way we're working isn't working. He's this notion of bigger, faster, longer, harder is actually not productive and what serves us in the long term. Never taking a break is actually the opposite of what being truly productive is and what truly adding value is. And when we start to function like this, not only are we delivering less value at work, but at the end of the day, we're getting home and we don't even have the energy for the wife, we don't even have the energy for the husband, we don't have the energy for the kids, we don't even have the energy to have a good night's rest. And so we return to work the next day and we're feeling even more and more depleted. And ultimately he argues that actually more isn't more is in fact less. And if we want to sustainably manage our productivity and the value we bring into everything that we do and the contribution we make to society, that we actually need to cultivate this awareness of how we manage our energy and how we manage stress effectively. Have a look at the questionnaire on are you heading for an energy crisis? The Pomodoro method is what researchers have come up with as a really useful tool to try and manage stress and how you work most productively in these ultradian rhythms. And the idea is that you find your optimal working space where you're actually going to be productive. You focus on one thing you need to do. Set your timer for 25 minutes. Work on that one thing in a focused way for 25 minutes until your timer goes, and then give yourself 5 minutes of rest. And here you could do a breathing exercise to reset yourself, get up and have a quick walk, make a cup of tea, and do whatever your body is telling you to do. And then you'd repeat the entire process, working for 25 minutes, focusing on just one thing and giving yourself that 5 minutes break at the end. Once you've gone through 3 or 4 of these cycles, you'll stop and you'll give yourself a longer break, a 30 to 50 minute break is fine. That is what's known as the Pomodoro method. And let's look a little bit more at that vagus nerve to be aware and to actually support that vagus nerve, support our vagal tone. Polyvagal theory was developed many years ago, and it really focused on 3 different components of our vagus nerve. One was where we're feeling safe and secure and able to connect with people, and the other 2 are all related to a parasympathetic stressed state. Looking at practical ways in which we can improve our vagal tone, we can also improve our resilience to stress. So a couple of ways to do this. Well, one of the key ways, and we have a whole lesson on breathing and breath, and please refer to this, but it's a wonderful way of just resetting that vagus nerve and your entire autonomic nervous system. Particularly stressful situation, box breathing, where you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, or 4-7-8, or things like just simple diaphragmatic breathing is going to be a really useful breath to just reset that nervous system. This tells your body that you're calm, this tells your body that you're safe, and you can begin again. Other things though, humming, singing, they all work on this supporting our vagal tone. Laughing with people. I just want to mention this comfort crisis again too, before we come to the last set of tips and ideas for how we can improve how we manage stress. Because really it talks to the heart of the reason why we are seeing some of the results in our workplace wellness, the reported very high levels of stress, the mental health and other distress that we are seeing, this sort of lack of an ability to cope particularly well with stress and very low levels of stress resilience. The reality is we were physiologically designed, our ancestors, they probably crossed freezing cold rivers, did dangerous things, were active all day, went for periods without food. There was this constant application or experience of a hormetic stress, which is actually just a small amount of applied bit of stress. And what it does is it allows the body to actually up-regulate in terms of a genetic response. We get a positive immune response, we get things like autophagy happening, we get our body sort of reboots and resets itself, and our autonomic nervous system resets itself. And what we see today, we're on the sofa watching Netflix, and our biggest worry is kind of wondering when Uber Eats is going to arrive. This is not enough exposure to regular mild stresses that give us an opportunity to have this up-regulation and to kind of build up the stress resilience that we have. Examples of hormetic stresses, things like intermittent fasting. I'm talking about something like 12 hours of no food. That induces a small mild stressor within your body. We can see the same thing from some dietary restriction, or even things like a HIIT workout. So it's intense, it's a short amount of time, it's high stress on the body. You're getting all these micro tears on your muscles, and then the response is to build more muscle. And a similar thing happens when we expose ourselves to thermal stresses, so heat and cold. All of this is an upregulation for the body and an upregulation of our stress resilience. So there's a number of benefits of this hormetic stress. We're seeing an upregulation on a cellular level, we're seeing an increase in our physical strength, we're seeing an increase in our vagal tone and our stress resilience, we're seeing an improvement in our immune system. So all of these are great reasons for you to just lean into hormetic stresses from time to time to improve your body's overall ability to handle stress. A favorite of mine is the sort of thermal therapy idea, and I'm sure you've all heard about the Iceman Wim Hof. He uses two things. He's using freezing cold and he's using breath, and combining those two to actually expose your body to that hormetic stress to improve our overall stress resilience, our overall performance. It's all about getting out of your comfort zone. And we see some studies, and I've included these in the notes and the references, that Wim Hof has coordinated, and then more studies have followed on from this. 3,000 workers underwent a sort of trial period, I think of 6 weeks, where they did 30, 60 and 90-second cold showers. Not a long time. It was only 10 or 12 degrees. And what they saw was a real improvement in performance and a 29% reduction in sick days for the next 12 months. So you can see there's just some of the benefits of that hormetic stressor on your overall resilience. And my challenge at the end of this presentation is give it a try for the next 21 days, get to the end of your shower, see if you can make 90 seconds with cold water on. Your body will thank you for it. Your capacity to handle stress will thank you for it. And I think you will feel and see the improvements in your immune system and overall health and well-being. Get out there and embrace hormetic stress to improve your overall stress resilience.